Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Cieslinski, aka the Running Wine Mom. Today we have a truly special guest and one of my favorite authors joining us on the show. She's a master of storytelling, a champion of diversity in literature, and an all-around literary force to be reckoned with. Our guest today is none other than Jessie Q. Sutanto, an author whose words weave effortlessly between the pages, captivating readers with tales of mystery, humor, and heart. From her upbringing in Jakarta and Singapore to her studies at the University of Oxford, Jessie's life experiences have undoubtedly shaped the rich tapestry of her storytelling. With a flair for crafting complex characters and immersive worlds, Jessie has brought us works like Vera Wong's Unsolicited Vice for Murderers, a blend of mystery and humor set in San Francisco's Chinatown, and the uproariously entertaining Dial A for Aunties series, which follows the misadventures of Medi-chan and her meddling aunties. But that's not all. Jessie recently shared an exciting journey to Los Angeles where she met with writers and producers at Netflix to discuss the possibility of bringing Dial A for Aunties to life on the screen. We can't wait to hear all about her experiences and the potential for seeing our favorite characters grace the screen. So without further ado, let's welcome Jessie. Welcome, Jessie.
Hi. Oh my God, that was like the best intro. I was like, oh my God, that person sounds so impressive.
I love it. Literally is, and I always say it's one of my favorite things to do the intros because you don't notice that sometimes about yourself when you write all of your
Yeah.
accomplishments down and as I was saying before we started recording, you have so many amazing things happening and to be proud of.
Well, thank you so much.
So I'm so excited to talk to you today. And we have a few things. We start off on the Running Wine Mom. We start with our wine, and win of the week segment. This is where we share our favorite bottle of wine or drink, vent about something that has been bothering us, and celebrate our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So, Jessie, what is your wine, WINE, of the week?
So, when I used to live in England, I kid you not, my favorite wine was this German wine called
Okay.
Liebfrau Milk. And apparently that translates to like maiden's milk. And it costs £3 a bottle.
Okay.
So obviously I am very classy when it comes to my but now that I live in Indonesia, because like wine is so heavily taxed, like the cheapest bottles we have are like $20. So,
Wow.
so I feel like I'm like, you know what? I've upgraded now. I buy $20 bottles of wine, and it's literally like whatever they have on sale, and I'd be like, yeah, that one.
Well, I mean, you can't beat a 3 pound, bottle of wine. That's
Wow.
that's the best. That's what we have a Trader Joe's near us. They used to have, I think it was like the three
A two
buck
buck chuck,
yeah, that 2 buck
and
chuck.
now
That's
it's
what
like,
it is. Yeah.
yeah,
I think the prices have raised a little bit, but those are the
yeah.
best. It was yeah. Um, so what is your WHINE of the week?
Oh my gosh. So my husband and I were considering moving to Singapore. And
Okay.
so now, of course, we're having to deal with a lot of immigration papers. So that would be
Hmm.
my wine of the week.
Well, I hope everything goes smoothly for you to
Thank
get all
you.
that done. What is your win of the week?
Win of the week would be my latest book released in the UK. So that's fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That is
Thank
great.
you.
So I always like to ask my guests, what is one significant challenge you've successfully navigated shaping your journey to where you are today? And what is one accomplishment you are most proud of in your life?
Ooh, so the challenge, I mean, I think the biggest challenge for me to like getting here would be just dealing with all the rejections that I got. And, they really mess with your confidence. And I think it was after my seventh book. I just felt like when I was writing it, I was like, okay, this one is really good. I was like, I've really leveled up, and I just believe that this one is a good one. But then when my agent sent it out to publishers, we just kept getting rejections everywhere. And so I was like, whoa. And I realized, oh my gosh, I can't trust my own taste and my own judgment because I thought it was good, but then, the proof is that everyone is rejecting it. So it really messed me up. And I had to kind of like take a step back. I was like, I think I shouldn't be writing because, well, clearly I can't judge my own work. So I took almost a year of like writing and trying to get published. So yeah, I would say that was my biggest challenge. After the biggest accomplishment, I would say, gosh, yeah, probably, well, then coming back and starting to write again. But then it's like an accomplishment because
Good.
I remember why I did it, and it was because after I took like a year off writing, I was like, oh my God, so I was really miserable while I was writing, but actually I'm more miserable when I'm not writing.
Oh my gosh, that is funny. You found that if you're going to be miserable, you might as well be less miserable, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is funny. Yeah, I've been able to interview some amazing authors, and I feel as though the feeling is so similar to what you're saying. There's just so many rejections that you have to go through to get to the success of it. And, I can't imagine how hard it is on your ego and your just like
Yeah.
self, your mindset. I'm so happy you kept writing because I love all of your books and I know so many
Thank
people do. So the running wine mom, we start with a little fitness. What's your favorite way to stay active?
It used to be running, actually. So
Yeah,
running my
perfect.
mom. Like sometime this year and last year, I started weightlifting
Mm,
because I was like, actually, as I get older, I'm hearing that I need to do more weights to
hmm.
kind of like retain, muscle and bone density and all that. So yeah, I've been doing more weight.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is so important. And I feel as though that's
Hmm.
such a like I don't maybe not buzzword, but a buzz conversation that I've been hearing,
Hmm.
especially women like anywhere starting in
Hmm.
30s, 40s,
Yeah,
especially, obviously 50s, there that it's like get
yeah,
away from the cardio, get to the weights, and it's
yeah.
so much more beneficial for you. So, how do you think that maintaining your fitness aligns with your mental health?
Well, for sure. I mean, that is like one of the main things that I do to stop myself from going over the edge. Uh,
Yeah.
because like I listen to audiobooks or I listen to music. Angry music is my workout music. So it's always such a joy, and then I always leave the gym feeling really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, so important. All right, so the next topic is going to be parenthood. So, can you tell us a little bit about your family?
So I have two girls. They're 8 and 5. And it's so funny because like I actually think that they've made me more productive
Okay.
because yeah, so when they were born, like I had like such limited writing time. So I had to learn to be super efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And like before I had them, I had like the whole day to write basically. But I'm pretty much writing the same amount in like 2 hours
Yeah.
that I used to take like 10 hours to do. So they kind of like help to keep that procrastination at a minimum. Because I just know I'm like, okay, well, if I don't get it done by this time, then I'm not
Right.
going to get it done at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally feel that. I have a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, and we always say, like, what did we do with all of this time? And people
Yeah.
always say it, like, what did you do with all of your time? And I'm like, I know I was busy before I had kids, but now I can
Yeah.
relate to the productivity because you're like,
Hmm.
okay, I have to get this stuff done in this amount of time, or it's not
Hmm.
going to get done. You can't take 2 hours to do it.
Yes, exactly.
What do you think that you were least prepared for in parenthood?
So what I was least prepared for, again, like it comes down to the time. I remember with my firstborn when she was still a baby, I remember like at one point trying to calm her down so she would stop crying and go to sleep. And I was like, I can sleep in the morning. That's what happens with work, right? Like you
Right.
you would be like cramming, pulling an all-nighter, and then you're like, and then I got that done and sent off, so now I can like have a break. But then what I didn't like, it didn't hit me that, well, actually there are no breaks, and
Right. No, there are not.
right, like whether she goes to sleep at like 8 p.m. or 2 a.m., she's still gonna wake up in like
Yeah.
2 or 3 hours time. because like her stomach is the size of a walnut.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh my God, it's not that I can kind of like earn back to rest. It's like it just keeps going.
The
And
never-ending
yeah,
cycle.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree. Those days were so tough when you're just like, I just want to get more than 2 hours of sleep,
yeah,
please. When will this ever
yeah,
happen?
yes, totally.
What do you think that your parenting style is?
Oh my God, that's a good question. So I always said, I would never be like my mom, like the stereotypical like Asian parent. But no, I totally am. I remember when so during COVID in Indonesia for children, they hand out their COVID shots at school. So
Okay.
we took her to school, and we've placed our kids in an international school here. And so all the teachers are from the UK or the US. And my 8-year-old, well, at the time she was 6 years old, and she started crying because she was like so scared of getting the shot. And then this teacher, she's like this lovely English lady, and she came over and she was like, well, I understand that you're really scared, but you're such a brave girl, aren't you? And I was thinking like, oh, look at that. We made such a right choice in sending them to the school. And she was like, I'll give you 2 minutes to calm down, okay? And I was like, thank you. And then she walked away. And then like 2 minutes later, my child, she was still crying. And then the teacher came over again and she was like, oh, well, maybe you might decide that today is not the day that you get the shot. Maybe you want to go home, come back a different day. And I was like, whoa, whoa.
You're like, nope.
And I'm a minute, please. And she was like, sure. And she like walked away. And then I turned to my kid and I was like, listen up. You're getting the shot, whether or not you want it. And we're not going home without the shot. And she was like, but my teacher said, and I was like, forget what your teacher said. You know what? You're an Asian kid. You don't get a choice, okay? Like the choice is to get the shot. And she's like, okay.
Yeah, and then you're probably after you're like, oh my gosh, wait, who was that? Who just said that how did that happen?
No, I was possessed. I was not in my
Yeah.
right mind. But we got the shot. Yay.
Well, there you go. And sometimes, listen, tough love is how you gotta do it sometimes. Resilience, you're building resilience. And what is one piece of advice that you would give other parents?
Oh my God. Okay, so one piece of advice I have. So my best friend is an actual child psychologist. And so, it's so handy having a child psychologist as your bestie. Highly recommend. Um, she's always telling me, Jesse, I lose my shit all the time. And like that makes me feel so much better because I'm like a literal child psychologist, she
Yeah.
would like lose her shit or her kids. So I don't know if it's an advice. I guess it's more of like a, hey, don't worry, we're not doing that badly because look at this.
No, I think that is important because sometimes it's not about what we're doing for our kids, but how we're feeling about ourselves. Because you just feel
Yeah.
like a crappy person sometimes when you do lose your shit and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm such a bad person. But to hear that the professionals are doing it
Yeah.
makes you feel like you're not so bad.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into you and your writing. So you studied creative writing at the University of Oxford. How did that kind of shape your approach to your storytelling? Did it kind of help you to decide what genre you wanted to write? I mean, that's such a prestigious university to be at. So tell us about your experience a little bit.
Yeah. So at this program, you have to kind of do you kind of have to like learn three forms of writing, and one was fiction, and then poetry and screenwriting. And so I knew like I wasn't gonna do screenwriting, and I knew I wasn't there for poetry, so I kind of like just did whatever basic things I needed to do, and then quickly immediately agreed that I was definitely not a poet. But it was such an amazing experience because I had never been to a city like Oxford before, where like people would just casually be like, oh yeah, this building is 1,000 years old, and then I'd be like, what?
You're like, what?
Yeah, yeah, and like I went to one of the colleges, and they were like, "Oh, I'll see you at the cloisters." I was like, "Cloisters? Wow!" Like I've literally never ever used this word before. But yeah, it was. I like it. It just really opened my mind. I think the place more than anything, it was just like stepping into a portal into like a whole different world. Because before that, I was living in LA, and I don't know how much more different you can get.
Yeah, seems a little bit different.
Yeah, but honestly, like the coolest thing about going to Oxford is getting to say that you went to Oxford.
Yeah.
It's like I turned it into my whole personality.
I mean,
Um,
as you
like
should.
you know how there's a joke where how do you know if a man has gone to Harvard?
Yeah.
You don't. You within the first 5 minutes of meeting you. That was me.
Yeah. Listen, I would well, even when I was like reading about, your biography about yourself, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I knew you were good at writing, but like, oh my gosh, she went to the University of Oxford, like she's like different level of,
I know,
you know,
right? Totally. No, very out of place and very much like, oh my gosh, they're gonna realize, they made a mistake letting me in. I gotta just stay under the radar.
oh my gosh. But you survived it.
Yes, I survived it.
So, I mean, in addition to writing, before we get more into that, the one thing that I love following when I'm following you is watching your cooking. Like you seem to cook the most amazing things, especially with your kids. What's your favorite thing to cook? That's the one thing that I wanted to ask.
So it would be dumplings because cooking is like such a me time thing. Like I turn on an audiobook. My kids are like, "Mama, can we help you cook?" And I'm like, "No, stay out of the kitchen. Thank you. This is my time." And then I just love like making dumplings because then you get to like scoop it into like the wrappers and like fold it. Like it's just really calming and I get to like spend extra time just listening to an audiobook. So
That's
while my
awesome.
poor husband has to like entertain the kids.
Listen, it's you definitely got the better of the
Mm,
jobs to split. That's awesome.
yes.
All right. So to circle back to the writing, I always like to ask the authors, that I interview, when you approach the initial stage of writing a story, do you write beginning to end, or do you write an outline, or do you kind of let the story unfold organically?
I used to do that. When I first started writing, I didn't know how to like outline or anything.
Hmm.
So I would just literally sit down and then just write whatever came to my mind. That's why the first book I ever wrote took like 3 years to write
Okay.
because I just kept like, but I don't feel inspired right now. And then I would kind of sit there, think. So then it took me, I want to say like it didn't, I was starting to plot out, little like maybe 2 chapters in advance. And then I start writing again, then I get stuck again. So it wasn't until like my ninth book, and that was Dial A for Aunties,
Okay.
that I actually learned to outline. And Dial A for Aunties was outlined up until like the climax, so maybe like around 75%. And then I was like, okay, now I really can't think of any more stories, so I just gotta start writing it.
Right.
So yeah, so now I outline to the end, and it's made the process a lot more easy and like straightforward for me. But it definitely took a while to get here.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't, that's what I'm like. I mean, I'm not any novelist, but I feel like I would probably start doing the same, just writing everything down, and I feel as though the outlining probably makes it a little easier.
Yeah, totally.
So, Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers was my first book that I read by you, and was actually, I read over 60 books in 2023, and that hit my
Wow.
top five. And yeah, it was definitely, I just fell in love with it immediately for the humor, for the mystery of it. But what inspired you to write this specific story?
I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember that. So I sleep with my girls because
Yeah.
I was in bed with them, and it was late. It was like 11 at night, and I just thought of like, it'd be so fun if like, um, kind of like an older woman, and she finds a dead body, and then I went to the bathroom, and just crouched there, so that I wouldn't wake my kids up. And I was like messaging a friend, and I was like, hey, I just got this story idea, and she was like, oh my God, it sounds amazing. So I wrote the pitch for it. And at first I thought like, oh, she would own a bakery. But then I thought, oh, that's like like that kind of setting has just been done so much,
Hmm.
especially in like a cozy or like a rom-com setting. And I thought, well, I don't know enough about baking to really like set a book in a bakery. So yeah, I was like, well, what can she, what kind of shop can she own? And then I was like, oh, tea. Yeah, and then that just came together really nicely.
I love that. And then, Vera, she was just such a compelling protagonist. Can you
Mhm,
discuss maybe how her character development came to be and
mhm.
what you hope readers took away from her journey?
So, okay, so Vera, I didn't have to do any like character work on her because she's basically my mom and dad.
I
And
love that.
like all the things she says in the book, they are all things that my parents have said to me growing up. Like, don't drink ice water because, it'll freeze the fats in your arteries and then you'll get a heart attack. Or, yeah, they would be like, oh my God, if you go to bed after 9 p.m., you're gonna die early.
Oh my God. It's funny because like when I was I think I listened to that one and I just was like I would just be like cracking up and I'm like, where do you even come up with these sayings?
No,
But
I
obviously,
did not make like a single. Like whenever I ran out of things, I would just like, oh, let me have breakfast at their house.
I love that. That is awesome. And so you recently completed the sequel to this book. Can you tease us with any details about it?
Yeah, so the sequel, I'm so excited about it because like it was again like inspired by a true event. So I was with my parents in Singapore when my mom fell for a phone scam. And she actually like the guy, oh my God, the scam was so elaborate. Like he was like, oh, your credit card, has like these charges. Is it you? And she was like, no, I didn't do that. And he was like, oh, let me transfer you to the police. And so he did.
Oh
And
my
then
gosh.
the cop was like, okay, ma'am, can you send me like, can you tell me what happened? She was like, yeah. And then he was like, can you send me a photo of your ID? Later on, she told me about it, and I was like, oh my God, wait. Like, what? And then, so then I like freaked out,
Ugh,
and she felt so awful. She was like, no, like, I should have known. I was like, no, mom, like, it sounds so elaborate. Like,
yeah.
I would have, I might have fallen for it too because, like, you're so panicked, right? Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, my credit card. And so like I rushed her to the police station to file
Oh,
a report. Then um like it turned out to be fine because they were like, well, there were no actual like credit card charges,
right.
and they just kind of made a report of like, oh, this person's identity is probably like in some scam, like,
Right.
so they were like, so if like there's any suspicious activity going on, like we'll know like it wasn't you and stuff like that. So it was totally fine. But yeah, so I was just like that was very much on my mind, and that was what led me to write this.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm so excited. When I saw that you had posted it, I literally think I screamed. I was like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, yes, I didn't know there was going to be another one. And obviously, after I finished that book, I needed to read more by you. So then I didn't really even know about the Dial A for Auntie series until after I read your first book. But that,
Mhm.
is kind of what everybody loves. And it has, again,
Mhm.
such an awesome, unique, and entertaining premise. And these are based also off of your family members.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I always say like dial A for aunties is my payback for having to deal
Yeah. It's like your good
with.
karma for having to
Yeah, yeah, because oh my God, like I always say that the aunties network, and apparently this is true for like other cultures as well, because I get so many emails and DMs from readers who are like, "This is totally my Nigerian family," or "This is my Jewish aunties." I'm
Well,
like,
yeah,
oh,
my dad is 100% Italian, and
mhm.
his aunts, we used to call the aunts, and there was three,
Yeah,
my grandfather was one of, I think, seven, and he was the only
yeah,
boy, but then we had the main four aunts that were like these old Italian women that were like,
yes,
always
yeah,
telling you what to do and how to eat, and it was just like the best.
yes,
So it is
it
funny
really,
how much different cultures are alike, but so different, you know?
yes, yeah, exactly.
So in, the book, it does have, again, the kind of like heightness of like stakes are high, but it also has such a comedic tone. How do you make sure that you balance that out?
So when I first started writing, I was in like dark and mysterious era, so I
Yeah.
was reading more like darker things, like straight up young adult suspense, thrillers and stuff like that. And one thing that my writer friends, because we would swap manuscripts with each other and then kind of give feedback. And they would always be like, oh, your characters are too flippant about like someone dying. So then it kind of kills the suspension of disbelief in the story. And so then with Dial A for Aunties, I realized I was like, oh, let me lean into that, instead of trying to make the characters take it more seriously. We just have like one character that's the main character who's like freaking out and losing her mind over this serious thing that just happened, and then
Right.
the rest are kind of like, yeah, okay, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll handle it.
I know. Yeah. They all were so fun and unique, all the aunties in their own way. How did you feel after you had to kind of end the series of it? Did you have any sort of emotional like sadness ending it, or did you feel like it ended properly?
So I definitely felt really sad, but so I read this interview. I can't even remember who it was with, but the author said, so the first book is like building a sandbox and you're filling it with toys and you're having so much fun. And then the sequel, you realize you're stuck in the sandbox and nobody can hear you scream. And I felt like, oh my God, this is so real. So like book two was so hard to write because I was like, oh my goodness, like what can happen to them?
Right.
Like they've already done murder. Like
Yeah.
what can I come up with next? And then the third book, I was just like, oh my God, I don't know what these women can get up to next. I don't know if people do it, like how they have like
Right.
series that keep going. So yeah, I was
Yeah.
definitely relieved.
Yeah. No, I felt like it ended like really nicely, and I felt like all the
Mhm.
books kind of flowed together. Do you have a favorite one of the series that you like the best, or you like them
Well,
all still?
I would say like Dial A for Aunties. It was such a special moment. Like just writing it, I made myself laugh out loud while I was writing it, and that had never happened before. So,
Yeah.
and I still remember that moment. Like I rushed out and told my husband, like, I just want this thing, and it's so
Oh, that's so fun. And so
funny.
this might be coming to Netflix. You recently went out to LA
Hmm.
and you
Yeah.
met with the writers and producers. Can you kind of share any exciting details about that?
So I was so nervous going to the Netflix office, and oh my God, it was so amazing. Like they have free coffee. Well, they have a lot of free things, but I was just like, wow, there's free coffee and like you can put however much like syrup you want in. They have like all the flavors.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, that was like
No.
I was very impressed by that.
Listen, that is impressive.
So then I met up with the Netflix executives who are kind of like in charge with it. And yeah, so they told me they love the script that my screenwriter has come up with. So they're just waiting for like the green light to start casting. So that's super
Oh my
exciting.
gosh, that's so cool. And so how
Mhm.
does the process of developing a script for, aligning with the book work? Like, do you have a lot of say in that, or do you kind of give up
So
the
yeah, so my before we even Dial A for Aunties went on auction. So like multiple studios were bidding for it, which was so unreal. And one of the things that my film agents told me, they were like, listen, we need you to understand that once you sign the contract selling the rights to the adaptation, you don't like it means you've sold the rights. Okay. So
hmm
like if the studio is like, you know what, we love Dolly for aunties, but we actually think like uncles would be a lot funnier. So we're gonna flip them, to be all men. Like they can do that, and there's nothing that we can do about it. So you really need to like think hard about which studio you think will do the job
Right.
right, that shares your vision. So it was really good that they had that talk with me.
hmm
So I haven't actually even read the script.
Right.
Uh, So I'm kind of like terrified, but also I met with another author whose books have been turned into a series, a TV series, and she told me, she was like, just let it go. Like you just gotta let it go, not care about it at all. That's the
Yeah.
only way you're gonna survive this process. So yeah.
Yeah, I know, because I feel as though people are very critical of like the series versus the book. And there's been so
Yeah.
many wonderful books that I've read. I remember reading, what was it? The Perfect Sister or something like that. And they made it into a movie. And the ending of the book was crying, like it was the
Mm,
most intense ending. And then the movie, they
mm,
did not do the same ending at all, and like that ending was what made really the whole
yeah.
book. And you're like,
Yeah.
how can that huge part be just like taken
Yeah.
out? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but I'm sure that, I'm sure it's like really hard to kind of just be like, wait, I really
Hmm.
wanted this in there and it's not.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it'll be amazing. I'm so excited
Hmm.
to see how it pans out. Yeah, but okay. So you've told us so much about everything. Looking ahead, what projects or ideas are you most excited about in your future? Maybe writing, or do you have a new
Hmm.
series or ideas that you're coming out with?
So I haven't announced this yet, but I do have a new book that I'm gonna be working on probably next month. I'll start writing
Wow.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm so excited because like if you think about like Vera Wong, that kind of character, not in a mystery setting, but like set in culinary school where she decided like to go to culinary school
I
like
love that.
in her 60s and she enters like her slut and
Yes.
dating.
Love it.
So I think it's just gonna be like a really fun, like kind of comedic book about, like having an adventure when you're in your 60s, because why not?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. All right. Is there anything that we didn't cover maybe that you wanted to share?
That
All
was
right.
really fun.
Yes, that was fun. Okay, so that's gonna wrap everything up. That's gonna bring us to the end of another episode of the Running Wine Mom. Again, a huge thank you to our wonderful guest, Jessie, for sharing her insights, stories, and infectious enthusiasm with us. Don't forget to check out the last book in the Aunties series, The Good, the Bad, and the Aunties, and then look for her newest book, the sequel to Vera Wong,
April 1st.
in April. All right, awesome. We'll be looking forward to that. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it. You can also follow me on Instagram at the running wine mom underscore. And Jessie, where can the listeners find you?
I'm always on Instagram at Jessie Q Sutanto.
Yes, and you share again. I just love following you. I love your adventures with your daughters, your cooking, your writing. You share. I love all that you share. So thanks for giving us an inside.
Yeah,
So thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, keep reading, and keep embracing the joy of motherhood. Cheers, and I will be back next Tuesday.